Coach, welcome back. How has the attitude been this week since the weekend?
Absolutely fantastic. It's been I think it's been a feature of this group throughout the time that I've been here. When we've had the odd situation that has left us a bit deflated and disappointed, that they've come back in that following week or into the next game, with a renewed vigour, with a sort of steely glint in their eye to get back on track and to make the very most of the games that we have left. So it's been a very good week. At the end of 3 games in a short period of time again last week, I think we can safely say that they'll be in the right place mentally and physically come the weekend.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with those on the ground. Brian, go ahead.
You get 5 wins on the road so far this season. Why have you guys been so successful away from the stadium?
I actually think a number of reasons. The first one won't come as much of a surprise. With 8 games in the early stages of the season away, I think the guys got themselves in a particular mindset. It was almost a case of, we've got a really, really tough start to the season. It's going to take a determined attitude here to stay in a challenging position after 8 games. Secondly, I think we all felt that there were going to have to be occasions, rather than maybe the year before where we ended up with an awful lot of draws away from home, an awful lot of draws in general, and there was a tremendously competitive edge to the group. But I think the development and the positive steps that this group have taken and how they've grown has meant that we've been able to attack games in a maybe a more aggressive manner. Particular games, not every game, and I think that's given us a better platform, a better mindset, and of course a better return come the 2022 season as we're into so far.
Thank you, Coach. We'll kick it off to Team Sullivan.
Gary, when you have a result that maybe the goalkeeper feels responsible for, how do you keep Elliot up, and then do you feel like he's handled it well, and do you think that there's still a competition between him and Joe for the starting job? Is it Joe's job, or is it Elliot's job? Do you have kind of an idea of how that's going to play out?
Well, I think maybe the way to start answering that is, Joe has set an exceptional standard in the last 2 years, and he himself has made a couple of errors as well. And I think those standards are so very, very high. Like teams, they go through, maybe dips in form. And it's only the strong teams and the strong characters that come out the other end of that and are still competitive. Elliot has come into our group, and if we look at the body of work that's been achieved, Open Cup performance in Louisville, victory in one of the toughest arenas in the country, a team that had been on a 23-24 game unbeaten streak at home, performed exceptionally well. Orlando Open Cup, really, really tough encounter. His form in that game was, I thought, at a very, very high level. But what we have seen is just a couple of little blips. And I spoke to him this morning, just as we work towards the weekend. And as we know, with all young players trying to earn their stripes and to gain experience, there are going to be some moments that you can look back on and say, I should have done better there. If you're a goalkeeper, chances are it's going to result in a goal. There haven't been many, fortunately, but what I can safely say is that if you don't make any mistakes, the chances are that you're never ever going to learn to dig deep, show true character and personality, and these situations will only serve him well. I'm sure of that.
Dry heels.
Hey Gary, just want to talk to you about Annabelle and Alex, two guys that weren't there over the weekend. In terms of the status of Annabelle, is that the same thigh issue that we saw in May, or is that something lingering? Is that something different? And in terms of Alex, you mentioned that he was an unexpected omission over the weekend. Are you able to give any detail on why it was unexpected? Thanks.
So as far as Annabelle goes, it's a slightly different injury. I believe it's the other thigh. Very minor injury. Enough, obviously, to keep him out for a short period. I think if you're going to get even a minor muscle strain, to make sure and to be fully appreciative of where the player's at and his health, it normally takes 2 or 3 weeks. So Annabelle's not far away from being in the group again. My expectation is that he will be training on Monday, working towards next weekend, hopefully. Alex is purely health and safety protocols.
Tim Sullivan with the next question.
I would, I don't know how to phrase it necessarily delicately enough, but you guys obviously had your home unbeaten streak snapped. And I would say even before that and since obviously the kind of air of invincibility for you guys playing at home has diminished. How do you guys get that back? Is there anything that you can do to say, okay, this is our home park, this is the big deal for us?
Yeah, I mean, the easy and straightforward answer, without me being delicate, is win. And quite honestly, Tim, I thought we did a fabulous job of being a long way towards that at the weekend against a team that have rounded into form. There shouldn't be anyone that wouldn't expect that Portland are going to be fighting for the playoffs or even the top 4 spots. They have a very, very talented group of players. And yes, they started the year off in an uncharacteristically slow fashion. But they have rounded into form and they're looking in a good place. And I suspect, looking at their group and watching them throughout the early part of the year, they had a lot of injuries and a lot of omissions. And now a lot of those guys are back. So we're seeing a very challenging group. We were in a very, very good place at the weekend, 2-0 up, going into the final 25 minutes. And the fact that we were unable to hang on to that is the most disappointing, obviously, part of the weekend. You've got to work through those situations. It's happened a couple of times. To your point, I think there will be teams that come here in the near future and say, you know what, let's stick with this, let's stick at it, and, there may be an opportunity here. Well, the only way that we're going to be able to dispel that is by winning games and improving our management of those moments as we move forward. We've got more home games than any other team in the Western Conference coming up. We're in a very strong position, a very competitive position to be competing for the postseason. And it is, part and parcel of our work towards the latter stages of the season. It's our our development line, if you like, towards the end of the season, and some of the boxes we've got to tick to get back to maybe that invincibility you're talking about.
We're going to go to Brian here in the press conference room.
Have you had a chance to look at Charlotte?
Yeah, a number of times.
Okay. They've won 4 out of the last 5, or had a draw in 4 out of the last 5. What are they doing well?
Well, I just had a brief discussion before I came in here, and we played Charlotte in the pre-season. And this is not the Charlotte team that we ran into and beat in pre-season. They have improved in pretty much all areas of their game since we saw them down in Florida. I honestly think that the confidence of picking up results at home has played a huge part in building the personality and the character of the group that you now see. And they look like a team that work very, very well for each other. They're more a sum of all of the parts than just maybe two or three individuals. They're very much in most games, and that makes them a really similar group to ourselves. In fact, you know, some of the characteristics of where they're at, of their home form, of how they play and the way that they play does remind me an awful lot of how, you know, we were evolving in our first year. Tough game, tough environment. Looks like they get good support there. They'll be full of confidence. But then so will we. We've had some good away results, and there's no reason to believe that we can't get another one in this game.
Rayfield.
Obviously between Joe and Elliott getting games in and getting opportunities, you mentioned how playing with a back five, playing with back four, obviously we've seen you guys play in the conventional 3-4-3 shape. How do you think, if at all, that changes both the cohesion but also maybe exploit the strengths of both Joe and Elliott? Do you think that alters the way that they are in cohesion with the back line, so to speak?
Yeah, look, there will be one or two little areas that you could maybe look at in terms of choices coming out of the back and decisions of where and how to play in and around that back five if we're playing it, or a back four, of course. But the simplistic area of being a goalkeeper doesn't change. The 18-yard box stays the same size. The goal will have a bit of netting on the back of it, and the height of the posts and the width of them will still stay the same. And I've always said to the goalkeepers in our group, keep it out the back of the net. When you can play, I want you to try and keep it in our team. And if you have any doubt whatsoever in where or how to play, then let's just be, you know, more pragmatic and sensible about that and work it into good areas. So, to your point, Drake, there will be some small fundamentals in the shape of the group. But because the goalkeeping role is so unique, you know, in the fact that their job is to stop the other team scoring for the most part, and to make good choices in a limited area of the field. And that limited area doesn't change. So I think we have, you know, just to close the book on this, I think we still have two very good goalkeepers who at this moment in time have made one or two mistakes. And if I look around the league, just about every goalkeeper in the league has made mistakes. I'll look every week, as you do as well, I'm sure, and goalkeepers are making mistakes. So at the moment, the only difference with our goalkeepers is that they weren't making mistakes. Certainly Joe wasn't. He was one of very, very few that wasn't making any in the last 2 years. Okay, maybe that's been highlighted a little bit more because he's made one or two, but I'm certainly not going to get out of my pram about it.
We have time for one more question, Ben Wright.
With the transfer window opening today, I'm not asking to divulge any plans or anything like that, but what's your expectation for how you guys are going to approach that, and kind of just your overall assessment of where the squad stands right now?
I think like all teams, Ben, we're always looking to try and improve the group in whatever area or way, shape or form. I think we've been able to dip into the market for the most part from the very outset of this group and make some really nice choices. And you now currently see a team that are very, very competitive, and I'm really pleased about that. And I'm talking about a squad and a group. If there's the opportunity there to add an individual to strengthen one or two areas of the field, I'd love to, but I think those deals have got to be the right ones, and they've certainly got to be players that we would perceive to be improving the group. And I think therein lies the challenge. It's not easy to do that when you're performing at a good level. You know, there's normally the ability to strengthen the squad and add players and numbers, but when you're looking to actually add players that are going to raise the bar and take us in a more positive direction, that's not quite as easy, and it often takes a little bit longer than you want it to, if indeed it does happen. So, you know, me and Mike are in constant dialogue about what we might be able to do, what we might be able to address, and make no mistake, Ben, you'll be the first to know if we're able to do that.